I'm Jenica, and you are here, hopefully, because you are a yogini, a yoga teacher, or just someone super interested in prenatal yoga that wants to know the 5 pregnancy changes that every yoga teacher should know, and those modifications that'll practice asana safely trimester. So this workshop is super hands-on. I'm all about learning in multiple ways for the best experience. So you have your workbook. I expect you to take some notes, and we will do a lecture, and then we will do actually practice, and we'll go back and forth between the two over the next hour. Hi. All right. So first, I'm all about connection before content. So I wanted to just say where I'm currently recording from. I am in my home in Joshua Tree, California. It's a village in Joshua Tree, a couple hours away from Los Angeles. There's a national park here. It's also near San Diego and Vegas. Like it's like a triangle in the middle of all three, right? And there I am walking, wearing one of my boys in our national park. And you can see those trees are actual Joshua trees. Super cool. They only grow in the high desert, so a certain elevation, and can withstand the test of time. And they also produce some fruit. So there you go. And just for yeah, let's get serious. Are we ready? So, what do you plan to get out of this hour? Now, I'm a firm believer that when you set an intention, it's way more bound to happen than if you just let things happen. So, when you think about why you chose to show up, you could be doing anything you want, this particular hour, and you're here. Is it because you're pregnant yourself? Is it because, and you want to be as healthy and safe as possible? Are you just driven to help other women and you want to know as much as you can? Or are you curious and you want to feed your yogic soul, with more knowledge? Whatever it is, this is your turn, your chance, and your opportunity to really make that happen. And so I always like once you have that thought in your head, to seal it with a big full body breath, right? And that's going to feel good anyway. So let's all, with our intention in mind and our eyes closed, take a big deep belly breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Nice. All right, we're centered, we're ready to go. So, in order to fully be prepared for the next, 45, 50 minutes, I suggest you get some props. We will be doing lecture, and then we'll actually be practicing some modifications. So I'm recommending a mat, a bolster, 2 blocks, a strap, blanket, 2 pillows, and a chair. If you don't have any of these, or you're at home and you just have some pillows and blankets, just grab what you have. I really think that it will make for a much better experience if you can feel it instead of just seeing it. And of course, if this is a recording, if you need to pause and go get it, perfect. Okay, so now just before we get into the meat of our talk today, I want to just bring us all to the same place. So people are always worried when they get pregnant, of course, for the health of the baby, and is this safe? And when I do yoga, and if we speak to just the physical aspect of yoga, of course there's probably some things that you're not going to want to do, and that's more related to common sense than anything. I once had a doctor tell me, I told him, yeah, I'm hiking during my pregnancy, and he's like, okay, well, just don't fall on the baby, right? So you can't fall on the baby. Probably don't want to compress that area and produce less space, or pinch it off. But in general, and in a high level and an empowering way, the body is made for this. The body's designed to protect this developing baby during pregnancy. And even like the walls of the uterus are so thick and strong, and the body's a miracle, right? There's an amniotic fluid that the baby's swimming around in that keeps that baby cushioned. Now, even during the early weeks of pregnancy, where the uterus starts, before it grows into this huge, like, watermelon, right, is behind the pelvic floor, so it's even more protected. Now, yeah, there's tragedy and loss that can happen. I believe 1 out of every 4 women experiences miscarriage in their life. But that's never the fault of the woman. It's it's just part of, I guess, a process. And it's not anything the woman could have done differently. So remember that the body's made for this. And that is, a truly amazing thing. Okay, with that, let's talk about what 5 changes happen during pregnancy that every yoga teacher should know, starting with change number 1. And change number 1, in order to really let this soak in, we're going to need to move the body just a little bit. I believe that when you are not just stagnant, there's brain stuff that happens that that helps it stick. So roll that neck around. Roll the shoulders and give yourself a little twist, open twist that is, right? Keep it nice and fluid. Let's start. Drum roll, please. Change number 1, hormonal. So hormones happen you have hormones, of course, all the time, pregnant or not. They tell your body, what body parts what to do, your organs how to function. And, as a woman, even, with your period, your hormones go up and down. But the minute you get pregnant, your hormones, like there's such an influx. And before you can even see the change on the outside, there's so much happening on the inside. In fact, in the beginning of pregnancy, like 80% of this is what I heard, 80% of hormonal changes in pregnancy occur during the first trimester. Now, I went digging to find out the source and find out where I could, attribute this great percentage to, and I couldn't find it. And when I was thinking about it, and you'll see in the next graph, whether it's really 75% or 90% or how they really figured it, there is, in fact, a huge influx that first trimester. Like, number 1, that hormone, what causes the whole human growth hormone, that is a huge spike. And that's actually when you first get pregnant and they, do a P test. That's one of the main hormones or mains that they're looking for. If you have a huge spike in that, you're probably pregnant. But that's not the only change that takes place, right? What happens is that this corpus luteum, and corpus luteum is, basically when your ovaries release an egg, there's the follicles, and they produce hormones to prepare your body for pregnancy. If that egg doesn't meet a sperm, right, then that corpus luteum just disintegrates and kind of lets out a message, hey, let this egg go, and hence a period. But in the event that the egg is fertilized, then that corpus luteum continues to produce out hormones to produce the right environment for the baby to grow until the placenta takes over, because the placenta is an organ that that basically feeds and nourishes your baby, that grows, starting, that takes over for those hormones, and is really then what kind of tells the body how to keep growing the baby. So that's kind of a high level overview of how these hormones, and then they continue to soar, right, throughout the pregnancy, to continue to produce and grow a human being. So we kind of talked about how it is sudden and dramatic, and that's a lot of women, that can feel a shift in their hormones even, right? And it does. A fun fact is that it produces more estrogen, during pregnancy. The estrogen is like that female sex hormone. It's kind of like why we get the wide hips, why we're getting, breasts, boobs, what makes us more those female qualities. You produce more of that during pregnancy than throughout your entire life. And that's why a lot of birth control either does a little estrogen or progesterone to kind of keep levels stable, because in order to have a healthy pregnancy, estrogen does have to be higher. Hormones do have to happen to prepare that mom for what's to come, right? Now, this new organ that we talked about briefly that comes about and really starts taking over these hormone drives, it makes it so there is all more of what is in the body. So more progesterone and relaxin are two hormones I wanted to focus on because those hormones have a direct impact onto some of the yoga asanas that we would choose or not choose for a pregnant woman. So progesterone, the sore in that is like it affects our breasts, right? Because we are going to women are the bodies are prepared to then breastfeed, and what people don't realize a lot of times is that for a lot of women, besides the P test, right, even before the P test, many women feel tenderness in their breasts, and that's their sign that they're pregnant. They'll come to find. Now, not all women, but it does happen, right? Even before, like the first few weeks, you're like, oh, this feels a little bit different. I know for when I got pregnant with my second, I did notice because I was still nursing my first at the time that there was definitely a feeling there. So that's one area. The other area that progesterone really helps with is growth. And our uterus before pre-pregnancy is like a pear, right, or orange. It's small, and then during pregnancy it grows to a huge watermelon. So the baby can a full baby fits, and that's something else to be definitely cognizant of. Relaxin is the other big hormone you may have heard. Or may have heard something about pregnant women having, looser joints and there may be a higher risk. There's no scientific evidence that there's a higher risk of spraining or injury because of it, but there is a body of knowledge that talks about this hormone, that it does loosen things up. It's also responsible for putting more blood flow in the body. And so out of caution, it's always like, even if you weren't pregnant, you want to, slowly and gently approach some deeper stretches. But when you are pregnant, it's not really about getting as far, going to your edge, because your body's already taking you to the edge. It's more about being aware of where you're at and doing things that make you and baby feel good. Okay, so let's get right in then. We talked about the knowledge behind this. Now, what are we supposed to do when it comes to yoga asanas? Well, first and foremost, for many prenatals, particularly prenatal, you will never find women laying directly on their belly for obvious reasons, right? When they are, 20 plus weeks pregnant, you don't want to put your full body weight on a baby, as strong as that uterus wall is. But the second reason we gently talked about was the breast tenderness. Even in the beginning of pregnancy, it may not feel comfortable for a lot of women. Now, that being said, every pregnancy, every woman, every person is unique. So if you're in your first trimester and it feels great to lay on your belly still, go for it. But if you're teaching a group class and if there's other ways that you can produce the same benefit you're going for, that's the way to go. So let's talk about how we can do that. The famous sun salutations that are super common in mini yoga classes, they can be done while pregnant. It's a great, way to awaken the body, to open it in multiple directions, and to feel good. And I personally think, having blocks underneath is a great modification, because then when you go down, you're not going to, you don't have to lay on your breasts, but without using, tremendous arm strength. And also when you come back into downward dog, you can get that full, like a really nice stretch and release on the lower back without pushing yourself to the edge, right? So you can get more stability with those relaxin that's kind of flowing. So what I want to do is I'm going to switch over to see me completely, and I want us to do a sun salutation right now, because A, it feels good, and B, kind of start to, when you have blocks or something lifting you, how that feels differently in your body, as preparation for teaching or practicing yourself. So let me jump over to this screen here and pump on all of the AV. All right, I'll scoot this back. Bring it forward. All right. All right. So So what you want to get ideally are 2 blocks or something that will keep you lifted. And another option is to have a bolster underneath the thighs, especially as the belly grows. This is just a nice way to keep everything feeling lifted and good. And so I'll set this up like this, and I might step in between the blocks and the bolster. And let's go ahead and run through a sun salutation together. Inhale, lift the arms, raise them. And exhale, bend the knees and come towards the blocks. Now, as the belly grows, a little bit of a wider stance may be appropriate. And even though a woman may be able to still, touch the toes, touch the ground, by giving them more of a lift, you allow more of a lower back release and the spine to stay more, straight to feel good for the whole back and keep the lower back safe. So we'll inhale here, and then we'll exhale. We'll take the blocks down and take our knees behind the bolster. And we'll inhale and look up. And then we'll exhale and lower the thighs, bending the elbows. Inhale, lift up. And again, it's okay to have a gentle stretch on your belly, but having a deep stretch, probably not that smart, right? Because we don't want to pull anything. We just want to create more space. And exhale, rebend the knees, and then push yourself back up to downward dog. And by having the lifted hands, you'll probably notice you're able to have basically maybe put your heels on the ground, but feel a little better in that lower back. You can bend knees. And take a few deep breaths here. Nice. All right. So that's modification number 1. But the idea is, how do you semblance, especially for yoginis that are used to sun salutations as their belly grows. It's not like you can never do this again, but having alternatives or ways to still get the same benefit of the intended pose, which is warming up the whole body, right? Opening the back body, opening the front body, without taking any risk. Okay. So we just demoed a version of this, right? The bolster underneath the thighs. And really, especially as they progress 3rd trimester, having this ability, I've noticed a lot of moms, we sometimes get into this pose and we'll be like in a circle facing each other and might have a conversation because it just feels so good to be in a position that your body doesn't get to be in during the day. You've stopped sleeping on your belly, you've stopped doing anything on your belly. So being able to have these props available to get on our bellies can feel genuinely good, but still safe for baby. So pose I've been playing with for more of a restorative version is actually to be on your belly, but have your thighs lifted by the bolster and pillows supported your chest so that baby may graze the ground, but you're not putting any weight on baby. And look how comfortable and content this mama looks. Even putting, a blanket underneath her feet, right? So this is another one, and it could be something where if you have all trimesters in your class, maybe some of them are still on their bellies and they're happy because they don't have a bump yet, and some of them don't. Or if you're in a class with one pregnant woman that's 35 weeks pregnant, you may give her this option as you're doing belly poses, right? As a way. You could do it probably with multiple bolsters, but I found the pillows make it a little more comfy or feel more luxurious, right? So here's another option indeed. All right, so that takes us to change number 2. So change number 1 was hormonal and doing things that promote us not to lay on our chest, or if we do, to be cushioned and supported and not lay on belly. So, pregnancy change number 2, is urinary. Uh, and you might think of a pregnant woman, she's like always going to the bathroom, like always, always. And there's reason for this, there's science behind this. In fact, right after conception, and this is one of your key takeaways, women produce up to 25% more urine. So, it's not only, a lot of people think, and it's true, when baby gets bigger, it's pushing on bladder, but it's also there is, as the hormones come, they're going to bring more blood flow to the kidneys, which are in fact going to peak production levels of urine near the end of the first trimester or somewhere around there. And so women going to the bathroom more frequently would likely result. Now, I personally believe that as someone who's given birth, that going to the bathroom, like that pee position, that squat position, is preparing the mom's body. Like I think there's a reason for this to happen. I also think this as yoga teachers or as yoginis, that it gives us an opportunity during pregnancy to become more aware of our urinary system, because a lot of women, a lot have problems after pregnancy when it comes to holding their pee and not leaking, and having embarrassing, wet your pants moments, right? And I had to kind of learn this the hard way. I broke my pelvis, almost a decade ago in a car accident, and I had problems peeing and for a few years. And it wasn't until, like, ironically, I watched a Rugrats episode. You remember the Rugrats with the babies and the talking babies, the cartoon on Nickelodeon, and Tommy was learning how to potty train, and he was explaining to the twins like how he's doing it. And he's like, well, I tell Pee-Pee, I said, Pee-Pee, I know you're in there and you're not coming out until I tell you to. And let me tell you, that changed my life completely with my relationship with my bladder. And all of a sudden, even though I had an urge, I could like literally talk to myself and say, hey, Pee-Pee, I know you're in there. You're not coming out till I tell you. And then we do. And when I got pregnant, and you kind of had to reteach yourself, having that greater awareness helped, because your body gets trained to go more times to the bathroom as baby's putting pressure on it, and you being aware that this is happening in your class, women are experiencing that. Don't be surprised if during a switch in speeds, maybe you're going from these great sun salutations and flows to more of a relaxing, slow class. That women may get up and use the restroom, and more often than any other class. And so as a teacher, being prepared with different things and different, what you can do during that time that you're transitioning, so women feel comfortable to come in and out of class as they please, and setting that expectation. Like, if you need to go to the bathroom anytime, go to the bathroom. It's there for you, right? So coming back to how do we as teachers prevent women from having problems post-pregnancy with leakage and wetting themselves like I did. I think it's cues to be more aware, right? Relax, strengthen, in my case, talk to it, but plus then when I studied the pelvic floor under Leslie Howard, who's the queen of pelvic floor. She's really has dedicated her professional life to really studying it, especially when it comes to women and leakage and all that. And she found that 80% of her students, yoga students, had tight pelvises, and tight pelvises. That's usually because, in many yoga classes, we're always kind of taught to engage and get the warriors. You lift, you engage those bandhas, right? And when it comes to pregnancy, like if you're just tight, you're going to have problems birthing the baby, because in order to get the baby to come out, you got to relax. So it's that overall awareness and that relationship with the urinary system that we as yoga teachers can truly affect in our modifications and our cues that we give. So with that, let's go ahead and practice a couple of kind kind of pelvic awareness poses to make this come to life. So a great one to get more in touch with your pelvis is cat-cow. And, cat is when you inhale, right? And you look up and you let the belly. Hammock would be some cues I heard. But when you're pregnant, and especially as belly grows past 20 weeks, some people say, hey, this should not be a pose that you're doing because it's putting a lot of pressure on the lower back. Well, that could be true, the weight of the baby. So that's why a good cue, especially if the mom's having lower back pain, would be to hug baby in. So you look up, you expand the heart, you expand the chest, but hugging, if you have any lower back pain, hug baby in. And that slight tuck is going to protect the lower back, okay? So, but really, so yes, get this pose, get into it safe. But what then can we do when it comes to pelvic awareness in this pose? And that's what we're going to go. So we want to talk about, we're going to experience this ourselves. I want you to come to all fours into a cat-cow position and go ahead and inhale, expand the heart and look up. And exhale and round the spine. And if you are pregnant, or if you're not, you can try what it feels like if you inhale and look up and hug baby in or where baby would be, and exhale and round the spine. Right. Okay, so now what I want you to do is stay on all fours and go ahead and pretend like you're stopping the flow of urine. And you're on all fours, you're not in cat, you're not in cow. And let me go ahead and I'll turn back to where I'm at so I can model this for you, okay? Okay, so you're on all fours. And now if I was going to squeeze like I was going to stop my urine, and this is not something I would do every day. This is just more of an awareness exercise. Okay, and so now I'm going to come in to cat or cow. I always forget which one's which, but I'm going to let my belly hammock and hug baby in if I have low back pain and look up. And now I'm going to try to squeeze those same muscles that to stop my urine. Inhale here. And I'm going to exhale, round the spine, pushing away. And then I'm going to also squeeze. Now go ahead and alternate, and you tell me after a few rounds, or you think to yourself, which one is it easier to squeeze or to try to stop that urine? And you could do the same thing as if you were to stop your poo, right? Different but same. And I know for me, when I'm in this position, when my pelvic is tilted up, it's easier to stop that flow of urine versus when I'm rounded and I'm like this. Well, what that means is when you go to the bathroom, right? If you've heard of a squatty potty. What is a squatty potty doing? A squatty potty is getting that lift the same as it would be to easier squeeze the pee, right? Whereas most of us, when we're going to the bathroom, or a lot of us, we're rounding. And that makes it harder to fully empty the bladder, to control it. So it's kind of that awareness alone can make a huge difference in your students' lives and maybe your own. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and come back to our presentation. And we'll talk about the good old squats. So another way to get in touch with your pelvis is through squats. One of the famous, midwives, Ina May Gaskin, she has this quote, if you do 300 squats a day, you'll have such an easy labor and birth. And the truth is that squats matter. Squats not only for strength, a lot of women, not in the US, but in other parts of this world, give birth in this position. And it's a great one because it does shorten the birth canal. That's, how far the baby's got to move to get out. So it's great in that. So if you were to, if you've only had time for a couple of poses each day, this would definitely be one you would want to add to your practice if you're pregnant. Plus, you can give cues to then really connect to that pelvic floor and start to soften and relax it. Now, I think a lot of us that we don't really we don't sit like this anymore. We used to as kids. I know my toddlers are both sitting like this, and I'm trying to mimic them because I think it's like super beneficial. So let me bring us back here. So the modifications you can give so a woman is fully supported if when they come down here, you know, their heels are lifted. Is we can stack a blanket underneath their heels, and that way they can sit back and feel more lifted. If this is like a lot of work and really you really want to just focus on opening the pelvis and it's just not comfortable, you can put a block even or a bolster underneath. Ugh. Let's bring it up. There we go. A block or a bolster underneath the bottom, right? And then now we can do our pelvic floor work, and we can inhale and expand this diamond-shaped area here below and soften it. And then on the exhale, it kind of just comes back. So we inhale to expand, and we work with our body's natural ability, which is on the inhale, you know, the air's flowing and there's an expansion from lungs all the way down. And we exhale, and it comes back. And this is something you can introduce in each class and each day. And by just bringing awareness, it's great for the whole system in the body. Now, when would we not want to be in this position? You know, well, because this position, it helps baby move down near the end of pregnancy. Like you're actually, I mean, literally, this is a great one to support baby in moving down. If the baby was not head down, which is how most births happen, right? Baby comes out head first. If he's head up, feet down, you wouldn't want to be in this position because then you're pushing him further, his feet further down, or her feet. And you would ideally want to give a chance for that baby to flip before he comes out without pushing him further into the pelvis. So that's what's called breech. And usually it's not, I mean, babies will move around. Oh, it doesn't matter until you get near the end, you know, 35, 36 weeks pregnant, where it becomes more of a concern. So there's actually, you know, when I went, you can, like, how do you know if your baby's breech, right? How do you know this? And when I had my first pregnancy, I got my care at a hospital, and, you know, it was amazing. Like, they could do it by ultrasound, right? And it took them a little while to find the baby, right? They're moving around. But my second pregnancy, I went and saw a midwife. I had more of a home birth experience, and it was amazing how much I learned from her, because before she would take the heart rate, she would just feel, you know, where's the butt? Okay, here's the butt, and then follow that around to the spine. Okay, that means the heart's right here. Let's, you know, listen to the heartbeat. And with practice, I could then feel where my baby was just with my own hands. And I think that, you know, as a yoga teacher, I probably wouldn't, you know, be like, here, let's, let me see if I can do it for you. But, you know, if you could plant the seed, hey, ask your midwife, or I know of someone that was able to tell, you know, did they tell you when's the last time you had an ultrasound, or maybe you don't have ultrasounds, then you could. So just being aware. And with that, if you know the baby's breech, there are positions you could be to help switch them. They're usually like inversions, like think dolphin pose. But if I was teaching a class and I wanted to focus on opening and being aware of the pelvis, an alternative to what we just practice. So you could have some women in squat, and then you could have other women in this nice like butterfly pose that where your soles of the feet are together, and to encourage relaxation, you could even stack blocks underneath the knees. And here, you know, some women could be in squat, but you're all practicing that relaxing, that softening on the inhale together. And this is a great one too, to, you know, you relax the feet, soften it, and then push the feet together, and you can feel the pelvis engage. And so when you relax the feet, then it's another way, besides just saying breathe and relax, to feel, what does it feel like to engage the pelvis versus release it, okay? So that is another alternative to use. Alrighty then. Let's head into then. Let me get back to our screen sharing so I can share with you our presentation. And I hope you're having as much fun and getting as much knowledge as I did creating this, because I think that this is super good knowledge to know, to have if you're going into this field. So we practice this just now as the alternative to really get in touch with our pelvic floor. And I super encourage you to play with it yourself as well as play with it in your class. Okay, that leads us to pregnancy change number 3, which often most people actually think of the main pregnancy change, which is growing that big belly, right? And what happens when things shift and the center of gravity shifts is our risk of it falling increases. In fact, they've done studies and it shows that, 1 out of every 4 actually have a fall during pregnancy, which is super similar to the elderly population, 65 plus. And why is that? Well, yes, the center of gravity is shifting, right? And women are not necessarily aware or taking preventative measures to kind of recenter it. You lived your whole life without a huge weight in front, and now what are you going to do? And so actually when the bump appears sometime during the second trimester for most women, that's when most falls occur. It's their body takes a little bit of time to recenter itself. And actually, 10% of women actually fall twice. So it is actually a big deal. The other musculoskeletal change that's happening is bigger breasts. And for when even during pregnancy, before the milk comes in, big changes are happening. And often women will, instead of using some of these muscles, we kind of get lazy, especially being on phones or looking down a lot. And now we have a weight here. So maybe we're even more so like this. And then it's going to make it harder to breathe, harder to move. There's going to be pain. So that is another awareness to definitely think about. Now, this musculoskeletal change with the baby growing, you see on the left side, there's the photo of a non-pregnant woman. And on the right side, there's where you got your pregnancy. And a lot of women, they compensate when baby grows. When this belly starts to come out, they'll start to lean forward and then take their shoulders back. And that in their minds and, and I guess in reality too, that's that's allowing them to balance better. But when they do this and they start to get this huge curve here, there's a lot of pain because now you're putting pressure all on this lower back that was designed, you do have ab muscles, even if you are pregnant, to use. And so those, the pelvic tilts, which take us from, I guess I heard from my favorite physical therapist, like cowboy butt to cheerleader butt, right? Where you're sticking your butt out like a cheerleader and then you're pulling it all in like a cowboy. Those are pelvic tilts. And that's what's going to help, remember for your body where you need to be to have a great feeling lower back, okay? So, yes, to be more comfortable ultimately during pregnancy. So let's talk about some actual yoga asanas. You can, of course, do pelvic tilts during a class or during your own practice. But what other things we can do, especially when it comes to, even balance, to make sure we're safe and supported. So this was the only photo of a pregnant woman with her hands on her back, and it's me. I was pregnant with my second, a little photo shoot we did. But the point I wanted to drive home was 2 things. One is that when you're thinking not even balancing on one foot, but some of the asymmetrical poses of yoga, like warriors that we do, that we can feel more stable by taking a wider stance so that our feet are farther apart from one another rather than on a tightrope. And then, so that's kind of taking the balance. And then even in warriors, we really, a lot of us, even if we're not pregnant, sometimes give that real low back where it's curving in more than it would be in its neutral state. And so a lot of women and a lot of us are like, you tell them, pelvic tilts, or, point your perineum towards the ground, or things like that. And it's like even me, sometimes I'm like, what do I need to do? And so a great cue that's tactical that they can do is just placing their hands on their lower back and breathing into that area. And when you do that, often the pelvic realigns and comes back to a nice neutral position. And so I like to use this one, and any time I really see a woman that looks like she's maybe in pain, or that her lower back is curving in so much, as a cue and to remind her to think about this, not only while she's here in my class, but when she's at home. If she notices, some pain there, just try to bring attention there. And then we're going to stand up and do these as soon as we go over one more. So if remember when you are choosing any poses for either yourself or your students, the why of it. And a lot of times warrior is a great opener for our hips. And so we don't, if we're not using it really for strength, at why we're choosing to use it, maybe it's more of an opener, a focusing pose, then using a chair as a prop to help with balance is also another great option. So let's go ahead and stand up, and let me bring back the screen for us. Okay. So we'll stand up and we'll try this on each foot. Okay. I want you to see my feet most of all. So the cue then is, one foot comes to the edge of the mat, and then as you come into like a nice forward lunge, the other foot can come to the opposite side of the mat. So you have a mat distance in part of your two legs. And, you might, first let's bend on that knee and feel where it's going. And then taking our hands to our lower back, we'll breathe into the, so you see how I did that? I just breathed into it, and already my pelvis kind of naturally, tactile feedback was like, oh, you need to pull back here. Now my calf is saying, oh, thank you, that needed to happen. And of course, every woman's different. But the truth is, if there's pain, it's probably tightness, and it's probably something you're doing daily. So this pelvis is like a source of our locomotion for walking and everything else we do with our bodies. So by understanding what a neutral spine is, a neutral pelvis, it really helps us in other areas, especially while pregnant. Let's switch out our feet. So remember, come to the edge of the mat and come to the corner. Maybe bend forward, backward, and then take those hands on the back. Then breathe in into that spot. So I hope you're getting a little more out of it. You're not only getting the knowledge, but also some practice to hopefully enhance your own teaching and practice. All right, let's stand up. And due to, I want to make sure we cover all the material within the hour, I won't actually go through the chair example today, but know if you have a chair at home, try it out, right? It probably will feel pretty darn good. Okay. So the other couple of, if you decide to do balance poses now, actually one leg, always remember why you're going to do it. A lot of balance poses are nice because they help us focus and confidence. And the truth is if it's something we do have to balance on one leg when we walk all the time. And if you're like, oh, I don't want to do that in my class because it's not safe, I think you're sometimes doing a disservice. Not that you have to do dancer's pose or anything crazy like that, But if you're practicing something like balancing on one leg, we don't want to just put our pregnant women in, child's pose because they've got a higher risk of falling. We want to give them tools and support so that they can practice balancing, practice playing with that center of gravity, and stabilizing those looser ligaments that they've been blessed with to have an easier, birth, by giving them, modification. So the wall, always doing it near a wall, that's super helpful. I would say usually, in yoga in general, you don't want to slip, so no socks, but they've come up with those like really cool grip socks. That's what this particular yogini is wearing right now, so that moms who prefer to wear socks can do so. But this is an example of a balancing pose that I really enjoy, and I've done a little YouTube video on it if you're interested in learning exactly how you would teach it. But basically, the takeaway message is to keep women safe. You want to be near a wall. You want to make sure the feet, the grip is all taken care of. And even like another option is to do it with partners. Like this is a super cute picture too. But a fun thing to do, where you can play with balance but feel supported. You could even do like squats where you're holding each other's hands, right? And it's not only, coming back to the why of we're choosing to do something like, we're practicing our balance, we're doing some focusing, but maybe we're connecting with the women that are around us, right, for further support. So also really cool. All right, let's move on to pregnancy change number 4, hematological. So much more than just blood flow, okay? Which is what it is. It's the amount of blood, 40 to 50% increase in a pregnant woman's body. That's huge. So, and in the beginning, a lot of women feel sick, nauseous, morning sickness, and they haven't really, said exactly why, but a lot of it they think has to do with this increased amount of blood. Your arteries are relaxing, but they're having more blood flow, and it sometimes takes a few months for your body to catch up. And a lot of times women have like a honeymoon period in their second trimester because the first trimester, all these sudden and dramatic changes happen, the blood flow, the hormones, the urine, and it takes a little bit for the body to get used to it. And then in second trimester, you might have a little bump, but now your body's kind of getting in the groove. And then third trimester comes around and now you have like your belly is huge or bigger, and so you're having to deal with this more weight, and that's why second trimester is often seen as the honeymoon. But either way, throughout the whole pregnancy, this increased blood flow is making a woman feel warmer, and she sweats more, and so temperature control is another way we can help that out. And even though she's having more blood flow, she's having relaxed arteries, the heart's actually not working harder each beat because the body is making sure by not only increasing the blood flow but relaxing the arteries, the space, the blood has to flow to make it happen. Now, that being said, more about the heart is that there have been studies on, cardiac output, which is how much blood pumps through the circular system in a minute. And what they found that a woman's position, it matters in that cardiac output. And both of these are safe to do, whether you're laying on your side or supported at an angle on your back, but that they will affect the amount of blood that's pumping through your system each minute. So if a woman has, blood pressure issues or is feeling heated, you can take this and, hey, if maybe coming to our back would be a better way, if you're heated, then to come on your side for Shavasana. So just kind of keeping that in mind. Now, there is this vena cava that runs from our belly button all the way down the right side, and that's why we recommend women are on their left side if they're going to be side lying. It's also why you hear the thing, hey, no laying on your backs after 20 weeks. So that's why when we put an incline, because the baby, the weight of the uterus and the baby's pressing on that vena cava, and that vena cava gives the blood and oxygen to the baby. So by just giving an incline to the woman, then we can take that risk away. So body position absolutely matters, and being aware of even the head for blood flow, right? If it comes back so quickly, we get dizzy, we get faint. So using the wall to not let that head drop below the heart, or if it does, if you have a nice forward bend, kind of like we did in the beginning with those sun salutations, if we cue to look up first or slowly come up, we can avoid a lot of what comes when you have more blood in your system and your head's below your heart. When we bring it back up, we want to either look up or slowly, take as much time, take a couple breaths and come up. Now, I wouldn't want to put a woman, our head below her heart for a long time, but sometimes, we don't do that many inversions. So giving a nice forward bend and, 5 breaths, it could feel super good as long as we're careful when we come up. Now, speaking of inversions, if you have a handstand, they say if you have a handstand in your practice beforehand, just like anything, like if you're a jogger, a runner, did something weight training, then you can continue in pregnancy, right? But if it's something you're starting for the first time, or you're not sure, if you have a class full of, these crazy yogis and you have one pregnant woman show up, this would be a nice alternative, would be the legs up the wall. It also helps get that blood flow to the heart a little more quickly with gravity. It feels good a lot of times. And just by placing a pillow underneath the body, you can take away a lot of the risk of crushing the vena cava. Now, I do want to say that this vena cava, this like absolute rule, which I believe in personalized medicine, personalized yoga, right? So some women, their uterus is never compressed that when they lay on their back. And it's really a great opportunity to listen to your body. And for me, I never felt dizzy when I got up, and that's kind of your sign. If you feel dizzy and faint after lying on your back, you probably are cutting off the oxygen to not only yourself but your baby. So don't do that. And that's whether you're lying on your back or doing anything, right? But that being said, you ask the women, questions are so good. Do you lay on your back? Have you tried it? And if you wanted to, if the woman felt comfortable with testing it out, try with a pillow. That's going to eliminate the risk by just shifting the weight a little bit. And, try it for a minute. And do you feel dizzy? Then, let's not do that one again. And you kind of empower the mom, right, to know and listen to her body, because you're not with her all the time. So she needs to get used to listening to it and knowing what to do. So here's the pictures we showed in the beginning of the Shavasana modifications, and I would even venture to put like a nice pillow underneath each arm to either further relax her. Or even sidelining. Remember, left side is recommended, but of course, if mom has a huge pain on her left side and she wants to be on her right side, again, it comes back to, maybe she sleeps on her, she's like, I sleep on my right side. And well, when you get up after you sleep, do you ever feel lightheaded or dizzy? Asking these kind of questions, because even if you're on your right side, you can kind of prop the hip up a little bit. Again, you're eliminating any of that pressure that's on there. All right, so let's jump into breath work. And we just looked at some really nice shavasana. So I want to give us 2 calming breaths to kind of set us up for this last change. So coming back to what we plan to get out of this hour, let's take a nice big inhale in through the nose. And exhale. 2 more, just like that. Big inhale. Big exhale. Feel all the way down. Feel the bellies. Nice. Oh, it's crazy. A few slow breaths kind of reset the system. And that's a big part of yoga. It actually made me probably a little bit, definitely more relaxed. And so this kind of is a great introduction to our respiratory system change. So there are like 2/3 of pregnant women experience some type of shortness of breath during pregnancy. And in the first few weeks, again, the hormone changes. Women often breathe more often and deeper. And then in the later stages of pregnancy, you've got a big baby that's pushing a lot of times on your lungs or diaphragm, and so it makes it harder to breathe. And so you can definitely, we want to encourage breathing and that great ujjayi breath. It's good for baby, it's good for mom, but there are certain breath work that we don't want to be doing. If you can, these are two I listed here, Kapalabhati and fire breath, and both of them have something to do with like that fast, belly goes in and out and in and out. And if you can think, using common sense and what we've talked about the last, 55 minutes about our breath, there's a lot of blood flow. Our body's already a furnace, right? It's making a baby. We don't want to cut off the breath. We want baby to get enough breath as it is. So that's why we may not want to breathe rapidly or create heat, because there's really no reason to. Your body's already doing that naturally itself. So what we can do to help make breathing more easier is create more space. And a lot of side opening, even doing it right now, and in a way that you're not closing off the other side, right, by using props, is great for openness. That's what we want to do to relieve this. I've had women come in that were like, I'm having a hard time breathing. They're 35 weeks pregnant, and at the end of class, they're like, wow, I can breathe now. And so this does work. We just want to choose poses, positions, even open twists, right? We never want to, compress the belly, but opening twists, super good for creating that space. Another one you can play with are heart openers and like gentle back bends, especially with props. This one's with 2 blocks, but you could also imagine using a bolster, hot dog hamburger style, and then a block underneath the head for just that gentle opening. And really it's not about getting this huge back bend, but just a little more space for baby to move and mom to breathe. And here's 2 more for you. If you have a strap handy, this is great for probably all of us that are working on a computer or a phone, to just take one hand up and then grab on the other one. And your lower hand may end up on your lower back, and you can remember to breathe into that area. Maybe take the other one. Other side. Camel pose is another pretty well practiced one in the prenatal community, because it's one of the safer ones, especially when you bring blocks up to meet the mom's hand. So it's not like this huge back bend, but it's this gentle opening to create a little more space. It's about stability. It's about feeling good. So, drum roll, our 5 pregnancy changes to know. To recap, we got hormonal, and that, for as far as related to our poses, the breast tenderness, the loose ligaments, we want to pick modifications and offer options that will take into account those. Urological, the frequent trips to the bathroom, and that pelvic awareness can do so many wonders, not only during pregnancy but after, by planting those seeds, and labor itself. We've got the musculoskeletal positions, the most common ones, right? The belly's growing, and that affects our posture and our balance. So bringing more attention to those areas are going to help keep us injury-free. Hematological, that greater blood flow and the heat, just choosing being safe in the sense that we realize that there's blood being supplied to the baby, that if we put more weight on it, we may not feel good, and we can listen to our body if we're feeling dizzy or faint to know if that's a position for us or not. And last but not least, we just talked about breath and how creating space can do wonders. All right, so I really want to just summarize what the role of a yoga teacher is. Encourage women to connect not only with baby, but also to themselves. Create opportunities for mama to be, to listen to her body and speak up to her, nurture her intuition, right? That's the beautiful thing about prenatal yoga. It's really encouraging mom, when she's in this unique time and space, to connect further. And always remember the why, that it's way, 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 way more important than the what. It always is. And if you can keep that in mind as you gain and deepen your knowledge of the pregnant body and the pregnant emotion, mindset, you no doubt will be not only, deep in your own practice, but also be a true source of comfort and strength for the women around you. So, thank you, thank you. And I want to tell you, I am planning on a couple more presentations like this that I hope you can join either live or catch the replay. And eventually it will be made into you can get some continuing education units if you want that. So if any of these interest you, there's links on the page to sign up for them, to be part of the initial group that actually gets, some live Q&A if you're into it. The last one, I have a physical therapist, actually the best. She always opens our prenatal yoga teacher trainings, retreats that we do in Joshua Tree. And the feedback I always get, because she does like a 3-hour workshop, is, I wish there was more of that. That was so cool. I learned so much in so little time. And so I'm having her do a 1 hour for you as part of my community. That is going to be phenomenal. I just know it. And so that's one you definitely don't want to miss. That'll happen in April. So here's my little pitch for you, because this is what I'm offering right now that I think is like cat's meow. This is, if you're serious about teaching prenatal yoga, but it's more than that. You want more than education, because you want an experience that you can kind of relax a little bit. You can rejuvenate. You can connect with like some really awesome fellow yogis. Then where you need to be is in Joshua Tree in this June. There's a 1-week training retreat that I'm hosting, that I'm bringing in experts to help me, not only prepare you and to feel confident and ready, but also to give you an experience that sets you up for just, a beautiful time, where it's something that you do for you to then fill your cup, so you can then go and fill others. So I'm inviting you. Please let me know if you need any more information on that. I would love to see you. And thank you for showing up today, for making time. I know you could be anywhere you want, and so it means a lot that you came here with me. Feel free to reach out anytime. Namaste.